Okay, you're on.
Okay. All right, so good evening, everybody. Our next accessibility meeting for October 11th today. We'll start off with our land acknowledgement. So on October 11th, 2023, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for the land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. All right, I will call the meeting to order at 5:33 p.m. We have a couple of regrets this evening. Mayor Panko is not joining us, nor is Courtney Priest, and Jen Brown are not with us this evening. So anything that's discussed, we'll make sure gets relayed to them. We'll go through to the approval of the agenda. So is everybody clear on the agenda? Everybody has a copy. Any questions about it? No. Stephanie, there's just one thing I would like to amend, if that's okay. I'd like to just bring a little update on the treat accessibly that we had started talking about in the previous meeting.
I'll add that as under priority issues as 4. Does that work?
Number 4?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so I think, is there any other amendments people would like? Seeing none, so we will approve that agenda then. So could I have someone move that, please? Stephanie, thank you. Could I have someone seconder, please?
I'll second.
Awesome. Heidi, thank you. So motion, all in favor? All right, that motion is carried. So we will move on to the disclosure of monetary interest. Does anyone have anything to disclose? Seeing none. So we will move on to priority issues.
Adoption of minutes.
Oh, we didn't adopt minutes. Okay. So does everybody have the minutes from? Yeah. And is there any questions or anything?
I just want to point out for the adjournment that it was not moved by me and Stephanie. It was moved by Courtney Priest and Jen Brown.
Okay. Oh. So perhaps Stephanie, you could make a note. I just had one thing that I saw where we talked about the sidewalk accessibility on Ferrera Drive and Staples Boulevard. The first bullet point there, it says cannot access the sidewalk. So people are needing to access the, and it doesn't have a word after the, so just to clarify.
Access via the road, right? That was the issue? Okay, I missed that part, so I'll add that.
They're like going down someone's driveway area to
Okay,
get
to
onto
the
the
driveway,
roadway.
okay.
Yeah.
So just to confirm, so an update to the adjournment, Courtney and Jen, and then the sidewalk accessibility, cannot access the sidewalk, so people are needing to access via the driveway.
Yeah,
Is
the
that
end of the
Closest
driveway.
to the side.
Okay. So I will amend those.
Perfect.
You want to adopt as amended?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt that as amended.
Awesome. Corey, thank you for moving that. Could I have someone second Corey, please? Councilor McGuire, thank you. That all in favor? Excellent. Motion carried. Disclosure of monetary interest, we determined there was none. There's no delegations this evening. Priority issues, and our first priority issue, just give me one sec here, looking at the wrong agenda. Alright, so our first priority issue is then the finalized terms of reference, so perhaps Director Clark can speak to that.
Okay, so Heidi caught a couple of typos, so I updated those, and it was just those 3 that you pointed out, right, that I saw?
3 that I found.
Okay, so I clarified some typos from the original, or from the document that was appended to the invitation, and then Councilor McGuire on page 2, committee structure, second paragraph, it should read, there is to be a minimum of 5 and a maximum of 9 voting members of the AAC. As opposed to what's currently written there, a maximum of 7, so we'll change that to 9. And if there's no other changes, then we can adopt this. And the recommended motion is that I can take this to council for consideration.
I'll move that.
Okay, so
Move that and it goes to council.
As amended?
As amended, yes.
Okay.
as amended, we can move that forward then. Corey has moved that, thank you.
I will second that.
You'll second, thank you, Heidi. And so all in favor? Unanimous, so we will move on. That motion can be carried. Stephanie, thank you for doing that. We'll move on to the accessible sidewalks discussion, which is our second priority item.
Are you
So,
still calling?
Yeah, just
Can we do the other one before this one? Just Chris is trying to get pictures to show you guys. So can we just skip this one for now and come back to it?
you're okay with that? Okay. So we'll skip over that priority issue for now and come back to it. So now I think we'll talk about the street accessibly, if that's okay. And so I did receive an email from the Treat Accessibly, and signs are available at Remax now. I'm going to make a phone call to John Ray, whom I have dealt with this in the past with, and make sure that our Remax here in Smith Falls does indeed have them. And I'll update perhaps Director Clark as I have more information. Tonight I was hoping that we could talk more about promotion and see what everybody would like included on the media release, if you will. Perhaps, I know we talked about maybe putting something on the Facebook page. If that's still, yep. So does anyone have anything that jumps out at them to go in there that needs to be included? Anybody have any questions, comments?
So people just pick up signs at Remax then?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
And then just Counselor?
Can we reuse ones from previous years if
Yes.
we already have one?
Yes.
So I'm good to go.
I'm good too.
Yeah. So if you do have one, and I'm not sure if Jen has one or not, but if you do indeed have one, feel free to use it again. That would be more than welcome, and I will get in touch with Director Clark as soon as I have confirmation that there's new signage. So, Director, possibly you and I could maybe sit down and draft up a media release for that. I think that kind of wraps up our discussion on that. I know Mayor Panko had talked about the possibility of Town Square being sort of a central street accessibly location here in Smith Falls. So perhaps I'll get in touch with him and see if that's still a go. So I think that will wrap up that discussion. And are we ready to come back to the sidewalks discussion?
I think so. So do we have locations for these or?
I do I have them in.
Okay. Can everyone see these? Okay. All right.
So that one is on the corner of McGill and Chambers, or Gill and Chambers. So Courtney said in a message to me that when she goes down that sidewalk, as you can see the metal thing right there, yeah, her wheels of her wheelchair, like the brake wheels, I'm assuming, are getting caught. She really wants this to be fixed
So
somehow. Yeah.
That's actually at
That's
the crossing.
yeah, that's
the
a
children's
crossing.
crossing for
Yeah.
school.
That's a crossing to go to, like, from Healy's Transportation, like, to Giant Tiger would be how I would describe it, like, to that mall area. So that's the down point of one of our sidewalks, and that is definitely not accessible. I don't know what you would do for drainage in that area, but there's got to be a better solution than that.
Next.
Yeah, next
Okay.
one, if you
Just
don't
let me
mind.
know when you want me to move on.
So this is on, I'm assuming, Ferreira Drive, I think. So as you can see in front of the curb, there's a steep thing. Parksview has told me personally that they deem this accessible, and I told them it's not, and they disagree with me. So I'm just bringing it up here now to see if we can get it more accessible. But they deem that accessible. So next picture will show the lip even more, I think.
Just on this one, do you know if this has been turned over to us?
No.
And then that is a straight view picture of one of the ones that Courtney sent me. I'm not really sure where that is on the map.
That's Chambers and Beckwith.
I'm Beckwith. So that's the one in front of Tappy's, I'm assuming, right?
Yep.
So the issue there, I drove down Chambers Street to come here tonight, and it's not actually at the intersection. It's not where the lights is. It's farther down the bridge. So she has to go into traffic to get up onto the sidewalk when crossing from Chambers to Beckwith. If that makes sense what I'm saying. So that's technically not at the intersection. That's it for that one. And that one is just a picture of how steep the curb is on, I think that one is, again, Ferreira Drive and Staples Boulevard.
Do we know if they got the final lift of asphalt on that one yet?
I was gonna say, it looks like they're missing the top coat of asphalt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure.
I don't believe so. I can follow up with Paul.
So that might be an easier fix because it looks pretty bad. But
And then Wood Avenue is another location that is the same as that, which again, I don't think they have the second layer of asphalt actually,
Any
which would
que-
make sense. So does that mean when the second layer of asphalt goes down, it'll make them accessible?
yeah, so for example, on Catherine Street last night at council, we got an update that the second coat won't happen until the spring,
Okay,
or it may not happen until the spring. So it was similar on, if you remember Beckwith Phase 2, there was kind of,
yeah,
you know, over the winter things weren't quite flush, but then they came back. And
okay,
so that might be it, but it's, you know, it's worth looking into.
yeah, okay, that makes sense.
May I ask, what is considered to be acceptable? Like
So
you said the one on at Ferrera there was deemed to
Yeah.
be
that was deemed by Parksview, the developer,
by the developer.
in that area, like one of their workers, they deem that accessible. I personally don't deem that accessible. I don't know what
is
the
there.
code
There must be a
is.
standard.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
assuming
assuming.
there's a standard.
Yeah, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there's definitely a municipal standard for that kind of stuff, and that kind of work would have to comply to it. So
Right.
sometimes with those new streets, what happens is the developer's responsible for building them, and then before they hand the keys over to the town, per se, the town inspects it and makes sure that everything's good to go and up to code.
Okay.
So yeah, the question for this one is just to flag this stuff before it's, if there's not a second coat, if there's a second coat of asphalt coming,
Right,
then
okay.
we probably want to take another look after that comes.
Mhm.
But just, it's good to be aware of it because in the meantime, people are living on that street and obviously there's a trip hazard there, if anything, you know?
Absolutely. And then farther down Ferrara Drive, I don't have a picture of this one that I'm about to say. It's behind Acadian Tire and across from like Independent. There's no lip down where the sidewalk stops. It's just a straight curb. So again, people are going to then,
Is that where the sidewalk ends?
yeah, sidewalk ends, but it's just full curb, not dip down at all. So another spot that needs to be addressed. And then there's a picture on there of one that is fully accessible, Margaret Street. If you just scroll, keep going.
Where is this one?
Nope, keep going. Keep going. So there is the other one across from where Courtney was, the one that I showed with the grate. That's the one going up to. She says the cracks are really bad there. That's all she pointed out to me. And then that one is technically accessible.
This is the same one that was at the Parkview indicated it? Okay.
And then just drainage on Wood Avenue and I can't think of the cross street there where the mall is. What's that cross street? Do you know, Chris? Mall. Like if you're going straight from Woods Avenue. If you turn off Woods
Like
Avenue.
where,
Armstrong?
Armstrong, that's
Yeah.
it. Thank you. Armstrong Street. So drainage there isn't good. And again, the lip is not accessible, which I'm assuming Armstrong would have second quote of asphalt because it's a shirt that people use all the time. There's same thing, just same area. Margaret Street, I think, would be the one that is the most accessible picture I took. Not there. No. That's what Courtney sent me again. These are ones Courtney are flagging for us to look at. And there is a,
Oops, sorry.
oh, sorry, if we go back. So there is where Queen Street and Elmsley Street meet. That is a down area at end of a street, which clearly is not at all dipped down. So just keep scrolling stuff now. I'll tell you when to stop. Keep going.
That might be it for now.
That's it. Okay.
That's what we got.
Great. I will
Check.
pull it up on my
I'll check if this is the last
That
one.
was Queen and where?
Queen and Elmsley Street.
That's
So-
a curb, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna pass my phone around for a second. This is on Margaret Street, and that one is fully accessible. Like no issues at all with this one. If you just want to hand that down,
Oh,
that's a
sorry, I didn't.
Margaret and Wood. It is fully accessible. That's what I think should be the standard for the town going forward.
Sorry, I didn't put the good
Yeah.
ones on the drive.
No worries. Thank you for downloading the pictures. That's all for me. I'll let someone else talk now.
All right, well, thank you, Corey. That was a great insight into some of the streets, and I think certainly some very important issues arose there, and I think a lot of them boil down to curbs. And I have experience with curbs, so I know where Courtney and you are coming from. And I think that was very well presented, and it really helped us to actually see it. So thank you, Courtney, for providing those pictures, and thank you, Corey, for sharing them with us. Is there any questions or comments from anybody else? Anybody?
So, oh, sorry, if I could, if you can give me the location information on those photos, I can take them to Director McMunn, the
Okay.
Public Works Director, and share those with him.
Okay, perfect. Councilor McGuire.
Me too, if we could get some information from Public Works on, I know in the past they've been a program where they've spray painted those kind of corners and then they grind them down, but I haven't seen that happen. And if that's like an annual,
They did some this year.
okay, we did do some. So maybe just how that process works and how, if we could tie into that, maybe come up with some of these corners ahead of that program next year, then
Beside you, Lacey.
Hey.
In addition to that, I noticed on the McGill and Beckwith Street corners, because it is an older subdivision, that there's no, for bikes and strollers, it's very hard to, so even access, looking at accessibility for all. Bringing the bike lane from Beckwith Street, you get onto the other side of Beckwith Street, and a lot of the younger people are using the sidewalk, and you have to actually get off your bike or like lift down, because there is a good 1.5 feet on the corner of McGill and Beckwith.
Mhm.
And then again at the corner of Cornelia and Union Street, there is no accessibility to cross. There's no lips, it's straight curb.
Mhm.
Those are two that, there's more that I noticed, but those are two of the bigger ones where there's a good foot difference that if they're grinding, that could be put into.
Would it be, not sure what your thoughts are, but would it be beneficial for this group to go away, not to just leave, but to go away and come up with some specific locations, compile it, and then I can take that as a list in addition to the pictures to forward to Director McMunn? Just the more specificity we can give to them, the better we can actually get some action, I think.
Absolutely.
I think that would be ideal if we can kind of take our own little tour and think of the things that specifically are a problem for us and bring that forward. Councilor McGuire.
thanks. So I'm wondering, like, we monitor the roads for their condition and their safety. Could we get a better idea of just how this existing monitoring on behalf of the town already works? And then maybe we can identify some gaps of how these ones are slipping through the cracks and just try to make it part of operations in the future. Because it's something that I think you know, it's the same as keeping the snow off the roads, right? The things are always moving, and it'd be good to get an idea of, I don't know if in the early spring they're going out and doing a patrol of the roads, or how this stuff's currently being monitored.
Yeah, I think monitoring is certainly a key in all of this. Deb?
I just wanted to, like, when you're talking just not the ends of the sidewalks, but I live on Georgia Street, and a lot of the sidewalks there are older, and so they shifted, and there's a lot of cracking, and I've almost taken tumbles when wheels get stuck.
Yeah.
And you know you don't go. So it's not just like the ends of the sidewalks, but the conditions that some of the sidewalks are in are not great. For strollers, walkers, you know, anything with
Again,
wheels.
accessibility for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which could potentially be even just patched until new roads are laid, which would
Yes.
be a good idea to have.
Yeah.
Something temporary even. Yeah.
Because it can be extremely dangerous for somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So that could perhaps be looked at too, something, a temporary solution until we can get them permanently fixed. Corey?
Also, through you, the chair, to Stephanie, can we maybe invite the Director of Public Works to attend the next meeting?
He was invited to attend this meeting and he was unable to, so he will, I'll extend the invitation next time as well. So if we can come back again with a list that's specific to make sure that he can get this information. And I'll ask him to watch this live stream
Perfect.
as well.
Perfect. So, is there any other questions or comments? So, just to wrap things up then, our major issues seem to be curbs and the overall condition of the roads, to make sure that there's no cracks and anything that could cause a problem there. Am I understand? Yeah, Corey.
Yep, that's right. And then just another question through you to Stephanie. Do you need us to move a motion or anything to bring this back next meeting, or no? No? You're good? Okay. Perfect.
Okay, so we will table that for now and discuss it further with Director McMahon next meeting. So I think that wraps up that discussion. Now, Stephanie, on my agenda, I have another priority issue that's entitled Item 2. I'm just
Budget.
not clear on what Item 2 seeks to.
What was this
I think it's supposed to say budget, advisory committee budget request.
Okay. So did anyone have a chance to, I know Mayor Panko had asked us to sort of compile some issues or events or anything like that that would be beneficial to have a budget. So does anyone have any feedback there, or Councilor McGuire?
I think one thing would be definitely to, if there's projects in the capital budget that we want to champion, to get an idea of what those are and what aspects of them we really want to get behind, just so when those decisions are being made, if there's stuff to cut or stuff to keep in, we could get some advocacy behind those projects that have more accessibility features put into them. But as for specific initiatives that we want to fund for 2024, I don't have anything today to bring to the table.
Okay. Well, Corey.
Okay, so I'm going to talk on Courtney's behalf. She sent me a message about this one as well. So on the topic of budget, we definitely need one, she says. We need to hold an information session on the CIP plan. we have in town so more businesses know how to get their businesses more accessible. The Heritage House Museum is trying to do accessible renovations, and could they not benefit from the CIP plan as well? And she said, just like the cost of a information session, she doesn't know how much that would cost the town, but that's what she would like to see in the budget.
Perhaps Counselor could speak to, do you have any?
Yeah, so the CIP is more for businesses.
Okay.
So for the town, for something like the Heritage House, that goes back to that capital budget. And I'm not sure where I know all this stuff in the asset management plan's planned out, but if there's something like accessibility improvements to the Heritage House Museum, I think that's definitely something where if our committee could pass a motion to endorse it and give extra political weight to it, then when it goes to council, it's just got that much more support behind it. Because I know it's always a tight, different projects competing for limited funds. So that, I think for that side of it, that'd be good. I think when it comes to the CIP, I believe it's being administered through the Economic Development and Tourism Department.
Okay.
So if we could work with them, they'll have budgets for promoting that program in-house kind of thing. And we could try to collaborate with them on that. But I don't know that it'd be advantageous to have a specific, we need $2,000
To do
into the committee budget. I'm thinking Municipal Heritage Committee is another committee I'm on, and I think we get about $5,000 a year, and that money goes to putting on a heritage symposium and putting up pedestals or printing out brochures for the heritage walking tour and different things like that. But then some of that bigger stuff, like the CIP heritage stuff, comes through the CIP budget. So if there's something kind of specific promotional or specific projects that this committee wants to take on, or events that we'd want to take on, like say bringing in a speaker, that could be something in this budget. But otherwise it's kind of a tricky situation because we kind of need to watch everybody else and see where our interests are coming up and then really push that those projects get
done.
moved forward. Yeah.
I agree with Chris on that.
So, and that might go back to, I'm not sure where our work plan's at for this term, but if we took another look at that and kind of laid out what we want to see between now and 2026 to say we've had a really successful term of our committee, then that would help. Just another avenue for that stuff to get into the budget and to get into the funded priorities. I think if we look at, there's a lot of these strategic plans at people's desks kind of under the counter or under the forms. And I think accessibility is a part of this, and going without doing this off the cuff, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the bullet point. But I know from when we put this together, and if we look at the vision, the stuff we're accessing for, or the stuff we're advocating for, is entrenched in this document. And so it's just a matter of making sure that it doesn't slip through the cracks, I think, over the next couple of years.
Okay. I think that's a really good point to put some things in the work plan and sort of have that groundwork so that we know what we're working towards, and anyone who happens to see that work plan knows that we're on top of it and how we plan to move forward. And I think that really backs up, why we're asking for the budget to do it, to do all these projects. If people can actually see what the outcome could be, they would be more willing to, move forward on it. So, thank you. So, Counselor.
So like a good example could be if we could come up with some kind of a guide maybe for downtown businesses of, if you want to install a ramp in front of your business, this is how much of the sidewalk you can take up. These are the grades it needs to be accessible. These are the CIP programs that the town can sponsor, split the cost with you. And this is how, if we need legal agreements for easements, or I'm thinking like the portico at the Rideau Hotel, right? A lot of ramps might take up similar sidewalk space, so there might have to be some kind of an agreement, and just really streamlining that for people to make it easy. So if they want to do it all they have to do is give that package to their designer. The designer can come back with a price. They can put that into their CIP application, and then maybe we start getting more and more downtown businesses with those kind of features out front. I think that'd be a really good thing, but it's a question of working with the planning department, working with economic development and tourism, and maybe even the DBA to just make sure that maybe there's grants we can go for that kind of stuff, and B, maybe they've got existing budgets that we can tap into. But if all of that fails, then that's when I would say, okay, we should say we need, $25,000 or whatever it's going to be. And then we could put that in the budget. But for going into 2024, I don't know that you know what I mean? It's going to be hard to come up with stuff this quickly. So maybe this is the kind of the work plan,
2025.
solidify the ideas, get the research, and then in 2025, we're ready to,
Yeah.
and not to say there's not going to be other existing projects that'll meet our goals in 2024, but just coming up with specific budget things. That's where I'm not sure
Yeah.
if we've got anything yet,
Yeah, exactly. It's time sensitive for sure. So something in the future, set the groundwork now for the future would be great.
Another
Anyone else?
Another committee that we should add in when talking downtown, a lot of it is heritage buildings. So the heritage committee should probably see how they can help make heritage buildings more accessible to you.
Yeah. And they can be done in a way that's really tasteful, like at the old post
Exactly.
office.
Absolutely.
And I remember our last accessibility committee, all the conversations we had about the ramp out front at the town hall.
Yes.
And then it turned out the best option was to just raise the soil a little bit. And now there's no step coming up where there used to be a couple steps to come in the front door here. Now it's all like grade. So, sometimes it's like, it's easier than it initially appears to be.
Yeah. It's amazing to see when you think about it, how easy tasks can be when they seem so daunting. And they're not. So, but thank you for your insight. That was wonderful. And we will perhaps look at the work plan next upcoming meetings and see where we can work in there. So, thank you again for all that. Is there any other questions, comments, any feedback? Anything? Seeing none. So I think we can move on to our correspondence items, of which there are none this evening. No in-camera issues to discuss. So we will move on to when our next meeting date shall be. And I have listed here that it should be November 8th, Wednesday, November 8th at 5:30. Does anyone have any adjustments they need made to that, or does that seem to be workable? Councilor McGuire, did you? Yeah. Good. Now the only issue, I don't know how people feel. Do we need to have one earlier than Halloween just so that can get firmed up, or are we okay if we just put the media release out?
I think between you and Stephanie, you guys can just do it. Is my thought.
We're okay to just do it? Okay. Good
Yeah,
enough.
it's an established program, right? It's got its own documentation and everything with it, so
Yeah,
I don't
if
think there's
you go
anything else we need to
the-
add to it. It's just a matter of
Sharing it.
coming up with appropriate posts and having them scheduled.
Yep. And if anyone comes up with anything that they want put in that media release, feel free to reach out to Stephanie or I, and we'll make sure that gets in there.
There is another program as well for those with I believe it's the food allergy ones where they had the teal pumpkins and everything.
Oh, okay.
That's another community program that's been around for quite a while that I know I've seen some posts already about people suggesting that as well. So maybe at the same time as they post that, I don't have the name of that organization off the top of my head. But that might be something that we could post as well, because not only do we have people who have physical, accessibilities, there's, diabetes and
Yes,
all kinds of things like that, where they make sure they have something that's for those people who can't have
lots of
traditional
silent,
Halloween items.
yeah, lots of silent disabilities that can't be seen or aren't obvious, but still exist.
Yeah.
So we can look at that in the future too, in upcoming years too. So we're all okay then with our next meeting date being November 8th, Wednesday, November 8th at 5:30. That's okay with everybody. Okay, so I think we can move on to adjournment. So could I have somebody move to adjourn the meeting, please? Corey, thank you. And could I have someone second them, please?
I move that we adjourn the meeting at 6:12 and seconded by Stephanie.
Stephanie, thank you very much. So move that the meeting be adjourned at 6:13 and stands so adjourned until the next duly called Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting. So thank you very much, everybody. And if there's no further questions or comments, we will see you on November 8th. Have a great evening.